All right, so this week's assignment will be to create a guest character. Basically, what I want you to do is choose an established IP, intellectual property, um, and create a character that would exist in that universe. So this could be anything from like graphic novels to films to games to cartoon shows. Cartoon shows work obviously particularly well. The only issue with those is that they tend to be a little bit more generic. So this is where if you can find a little more obscure, a little more interesting visually shows, that would obviously be better. But basically, what you do is decide on some sort of style based off of one of these, something that you're interested in. I would also like you to find something that isn't already your style. So if you tend to have a very Disney-esque style, then maybe try to do something that's a little more like Ghibli or, a little more anime or something that's like more of a graphic novel. Or if you really like drawing like comic book characters, do something that's more, in the opposite direction, more like kind of toy like Pokemon or something like that. Okay, so I want you to basically go out of your comfort zone and try to attempt to match something other than what you are used to. Okay. So that's going to be a challenge in of itself because it's going to be hard to try and match somebody else. But this is a good exercise because, to be frank, more than likely, if you are not working independently, that's almost 100% you're going to end up having to do that. The other thing you're going to do with this, so you're going to, come up, choose a thing, then you're going to make a design and you're going to have to make it into a turnaround sketch. So you have to do a front, three quarters, and profile view, side view. Um, Make sure that you utilize construction so that it has a nice three dimensionality to it and that solid understructure. Um, yeah, so that's basically what I'm looking for. That's also going to be difficult because depending on the style, some of them lend themselves very well to turnaround sketches, and then some you will see less so. So for my example, uh, I decided to do Marie Sendak, who did Where the Wild Things Are. I'm not sure that I'm all that successful. Um, and I just did my dog, who's a it's a puggle kind of. I don't know. She's a mutt, so she's rat terrier, beagle, and pug. But she's like 50% pug, and the pug mostly took over. Um, so basically, I looked at like mostly Where the Wild Things Are, just because they have that kind of style, and I thought it might be interesting to try and do quadruped as opposed to a biped. Um, so you can see what I did here. So what I would like you to do is to obviously come up with that, find some reference images. If you could include those in your composition as well, that would be beneficial. So that way I know what it is. If it's something super obscure, if you could maybe even include like the artist and the name, um, or the artist or the work. You know what I mean? Like if it's a series or something that I might not be familiar with, that would also be beneficial. You can even just leave it in the comments. That's fine. Um, but you see, I brought the reference in. I did a front, side, and three quarters. The way that I would approach this is to don't worry about the two other views. Just do the three quarters view to start with. Okay. Um, the three quarters view is what you see when you watch anything like 95% of the time. Very rarely do you even actually see other views. It's almost always three quarters views, and there's reasons for that. But start with a three quarters view. Once you have that kind of down, go through and I would draw solid lines at key markers. So it's going to be kind of hard to tell here. So I'm going to take off. I did this in layers here. Here we go. Um, go past it here. Um, do the three quarters, draw that view first, and then draw lines across. Keep pausing because I'm sneezing. Draw the lines across at key moments. So you can see I drew at the top of the head. I drew at the bottom of the head. I did a line. I did one at the bottom of the belly slash where the elbows and knees are, and then I did one at the bottom of the feet, and I also did one at the middle of the eye, just because it was a bigger gap. If you're doing something that's tall, like a bipedal, you'll have even more like because you could do it at the waistline and at the knees and at the crotch and at the feet. But basically, make these lines across, and then what you do after you draw the three quarters, just draw those lines across, and then you can use those as a guide to draw the placement of the other stuff, and that way it all lines up. That's super important to do because otherwise, what'll happen is that like this guy will be taller, and then this one will be squatter, and this will be shifted up and this one will be down, and they won't line up um, properly. So you want to really make sure that you use those horizontal lines, those guide markers, to keep everything, straight. Again, this is particularly useful for um, if you were going to take this and make it into 3D, because when you make it into 3D, you would actually use these profile inside, and then use the three-quarters view as a reference, right? If you could have no view, you would still take three-quarters, just because that is the view that gives you the most information, gives you a little bit of an idea of profile and a little idea of a frontal. So just turn these back on. When you go to do this, make sure you try to match the style as much as you can. So, for example, I was struggling. I didn't do a great job, obviously. I could see that. But when I was struggling to do the shading here, I originally tried to shade it the way I normally do. But then I noticed, like, when he does his, um, he doesn't do lines all the way down. He kind of like stops. So, like, there's actually multiple ones. And I also notice he tries to go with the contour. Um, because he's got just a certain quality to it. So I tried to do something similar, but not with a ton of success. So look at the way that they handle their lines, the quality. He's got a very kind of pencil style, so I try to maintain that as well. There's also this, like, it's almost like he has like a watercolor or a wash underneath, and then he does like pencil on top, maybe like watercolor pencils. I'm not really sure, but you could see like it kind of carries that same thing. So I tried to do kind of the same thing. I did a wash, and then kind of I didn't do a good job on the pencil, because you could see it didn't occur to me that he was breaking up the strokes instead of drawing all the way down. You can see I drew all the way down, which is not matching the style well. So really try to like observe and take note of what the stylistic choices are, and try to match those as much as possible. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. This is one you could really have fun with and do something really interesting. So I really am kind of curious to see what you guys come up with, but it definitely is a challenge. I find this one a little bit harder than some of the other ones, because you're trying to do something that's kind of out of your comfort zone.